actually. I mean, I think my mom's watching it.
Listen, last time I checked I'm really trying not to check the analytics because I think that it'll
Is
just
this
drive me
recording?
nuts. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, like I'm here, aren't
I don't know.
I?
I don't know.
I've been trying not to check it because I don't want to be like obsessed with those numbers. We have almost 100 followers on Instagram. I know that there's people following us on the different platforms. So
I feel like it's only going to get better. I really want to invest in better mics. I don't know how these are going to sound actually holding them. Hopefully better.
can you hear me?
But
Yeah,
now we have the ring light, and I think it's just it's going to get better as we
absolutely.
figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's all trial and error throughout this process. Um, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it so far. I think that this is really fun. I think it's nice, kind of giving sort of an inside look to the craziness that is our life. And
I feel like people like that, just like regular talking,
yeah, absolutely.
which we don't really do a lot of on our page. Like we do a lot of the features. We'll post I'll do some vlog stuff or some short content videos, but aside from on my stories occasionally, which I think I should do more of that. I think people like that.
That's the thing is like I think like people know us, but I don't think that they know us. Now that obviously like we've shared, our lives in terms of like how you and I met, how this all came to be. We shared our story about Jason. Like I think those are like big stories that people don't really know about us. They see our pages and they go, oh, like Lauren is a mom and a foodie and a person.
Am I a person?
Nick
A
is
Muppet.
a Muppet, and again, a foodie, likes to cook, goes to restaurants, likes to experience things, and it's kind of that sort of like small snapshot of who we are, but there's like so much more to us that we don't ever really share.
Well, do you ever think that at your core, so it's so weird. How would you identify yourself? If someone's like, what are you all about? I feel like if someone asked me, aside from a lazy slob who sits on the couch,
Fair.
I'd be like a restaurant person, like a food person, restaurant life is my main identity. I think
Yeah,
people know me as
absolutely.
a waitress.
You and I have always been in the restaurant, even now, like even not like neither of us working in restaurants
We're
anymore.
still the restaurant people.
People will still be like, "Oh yeah, you guys are the restaurant people. Oh hey, you still cooking? Hey, whatever." Like we've always been the restaurant people, and you know, for people our age, like we have a lot of time in the industry.
You started working when you were what, 15?
15. I
At
said
Steak and Hoagie? Was that your?
no, so I didn't start steak and hoagie until I was 17.
Okay.
Sandy, I hope you're listening. But I work, I did like Burger King and stuff like that, kind of here and there.
Yeah.
But I had always wanted to cook, and I kind of got into it. But yeah, I started. I would say I really started at 17 when I was taking hoagie. So that would have been 20 years ago now. Um, and worked my way in and out of different restaurants. I mean, you started when you were 10,
8.
8.
Which is so weird when I say that because it's illegal. But my dad was the manager of Giuseppe's, and I would go in on the weekends, Friday and Saturday nights, and make salads next to Olga, I think was her name. And we made salads. And that's so weird to think of me being 8. Because can you picture Jason in that scenario? Not at
No,
all.
when I was
Not at
that
all.
age, I mean, like that's when I really started to get into cooking. I remember like I would stay up watching like the older Food Network shows. So like it'd be like Emerald Live,
Old school.
Two Fat
Oh my
Ladies,
God,
like
that's an old one.
yeah. So like some of ththose really cool older food, like the OG Food Network shows.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I remember like I think my mom started doing Pampered Chef,
Of
which
course she
like
did.
right, yeah. I mean that's a Teresa Clare special is doing those MLM type things. Um, someone's gonna get on here and be like, Pampered Chef's not an MLM. I know. Okay, relax. It's not the point of the story. So I think it was like my ninth birthday, eighth or ninth birthday. My parents got me like a tote full of cooking supplies, like whisks, spatulas, some pans, like some basic essentials that were just mine. Which was really cool because it was
That's
kind of like
cute.
my first little like knife set. I don't think there were any knives in there, right? But every chef has their knife set, and that was kind of the start of it.
That's super cute.
And I got my first cookbook with that. That was like just my cookbook, and I still have it. It's on the bookshelf right here. And that has the base recipe for my chocolate chip cookies that I've developed over time. That was a chocolate chip cookie recipe that I started with, and I pretty much just like love to cook ever since. I was always trying to make things, and admittedly, I was like very haphazard in the kitchen as a young kid. I would never like read. It was the one I always harp on Jason. When he wanted to cook, So you have to read the recipe all the way through. And my parents would always tell me that. And inevitably, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to cook this thing. And I get halfway through the recipe, and it's like, let it sit in the fridge overnight. And I was like, well, guess we're not eating this for dinner tonight. Like, I fucked up.
You know what's interesting? I'm actually thinking about this now. I have to ask my dad. None of my memories of cooking with him are at home. I don't remember being in the kitchen with him at home.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't like. I never learned at home.
But I also feel like at those young years, like, I mean, like, he was working.
We were at work together.
Yeah.
I mean, he opened his own restaurant when I was 11.
Right.
So, I mean, ever since then, it's always been him in that kitchen.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I can't imagine little Lauren running around Duck Deli.
I was a little busser.
Dom.
I was a little busser, and I had my bob haircut and my braces. I was super cute.
Dom.
Everyone had me as like their bitch there. Like, and now looking back, it's so funny.
Oh,
Like,
sure.
my dad hired like all the college kids.
Yeah.
And like everyone always used to say my dad would hire all the young hot girls, which looking back, he definitely did. It's a bunch of hotties that used to work there.
Not when I worked there.
That's before my mom worked there. Like, it's before there was rules.
When I worked, oh God. When I worked there, it was you, your mom,
A bunch of old people.
like Cindy.
Yeah, but they would definitely just use and abuse me, and I thought I was cool because like I mean, like I had my friends,
Yeah.
but like I was there so much that like these people were like my older siblings. I viewed them as.
Right.
I was like, oh, bust all your tables for $5. Like I just was so happy to be there. I was the definition of so happy to be there.
Oh my
I
gosh.
didn't even care.
Well, do we know?
But it's so funny because I think like I don't know if you agree with this. I think it's different on each end here, but I parent the way that I do based on how I grew up. And by that I mean I'm going to curse in front of my kids. I'm going to be raunchy. I'm going to just be me. I'm going to be who I grew up to be.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to filter who I am. But that's how I grew up. My dad's not raunchy. He's not like that. But I mean like
No.
in the restaurant business,
Yeah.
I grew up around the humor that you're around. And I'm just like, and I was never sheltered from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's how I parent. Like I'm just kind of like, well, they're going to learn it someday. So fuck it.
Sure. But I mean, like Jason knows when it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Addie hasn't figured that out yet.
No,
but
she's little.
She's gonna get in trouble if we ever send her to preschool.
She is going to be.
We're gonna get that phone call. Addie said a swear word.
Like, I'm so sorry. At least
Yeah,
she's cute. Love
right?
you.
Like,
Bye.
she's adorable. So you spent most of your time at Duck Deli.
15 years.
I jumped around. So I started at Steak and Hoagie Factory. I trained at the one in Warminster back when it was at the original location. And then I opened up the one in Horsham, which is across from the air base, which is really cool. Cool experience that I had there was getting to make cheesesteaks for the Blue Angels.
That's fun.
Yeah, because they did the air show every year at the air base. And we had, when they opened up, they had a painter come in and did a mural on the ceiling of the Blue Angels, which is now painted over. The people who bought it painted over this beautiful mural. But we had the Blue Angels come out, and I remember getting to make cheesesteaks for them, and they're really cool. And that was nuts because I think it was that summer. Air show time was always like super busy in the area, but like the AC went out in the building.
Oh my gosh.
And the fan went out above the stove.
Brutal.
And I just remember it was like Sandy up front with like cold towels on her face, Donnie and I on the grill, and like Tina would come up with like cold towels on my back, and we're just like cheesesteak after cheesesteak. Yeah, I'm like 18 years old. I was just miserable. Like, this is the worst thing ever.
That reminds me of catering together and it being 100 degrees and the amount of times I almost passed out at different events that we
Oh my
did.
God, you were just so bad about that.
I have really grown up from that. Like I still have my moments in the heat where it gets too hot.
You have gotten better.
But I'm definitely better.
Notorious. Like
I'm assing out.
Old-fashioned 4th of July.
I'm blacking out.
After like full-on blackout. After like your 4th or 5th hot dog, you're like, I'm done. I'm just like, I'm ready to go.
My dad and I always talk about that. Like when you're home, you're having 2 hot dogs max for dinner with some sides. If you're vending, you could probably eat a dozen hot dogs.
But
Like, you don't get full. Like, you're gonna eat.
You're gonna put at least one down every hour. Like you're just like,
You're
well,
like standing there. You're like, here I am.
It's top of the hour. Time for another hot dog. All right. So where did I go after Steak and Hoagie? After Steak and Hoagie, I went and I worked like a quote unquote real job for a little bit, and then so I left there. I went to music and arts.
You know what's interesting? Okay, just to back up real quick, like,
Mhm.
or well, I don't know if this is before or after. I guess after Steak and Hoagie is when you went to culinary school.
Yeah, so I left Steak and Hoagie, I went to music and arts. Then I went to Penn Mutual, and it was at Penn Mutual that I decided to go to culinary school. I wanted to go when I was in high school, but I definitely wasn't mature enough, and I would have absolutely flunked out of the tech school. Like, it would not have been for me at that time. So I initially went to college for music. And in the meantime, I was still working at restaurants and still enjoying doing that and still cooking at home. So I was working at Penn Mutual, and it was an office full of women, and nothing against offices full of women because they love to have parties. Like every week there was something. It was like, oh, it's the August birthdays, it's it's freaking
Bring a deli tray.
like whatever, yeah. So I would like start making stuff, and then I would like baking things, and there's a picture somewhere. It was the first like because I was really getting into like the custom cakes with like the fondant and the decorations, and I was never good at that, and I really should have like never pursued that.
You got to put in a clip right when you're saying this of like your Willy Wonka cake.
The Willy Wonka cake was really cool.
There was a couple you did that
We'll
I
get to
still.
that. But the first cake I ever made, so it was this girl that I worked with, and I had this huge crush on her. And well, she's like, make me a cake for my birthday. This is what I want. And I was like, okay, well, that'll be your present. So I decided to make the cake look like a present. So I had it all done up like that. It was really cute. And I was like, she's never gonna talk to me, so it doesn't matter. But
Remember recently when I gave you shit for making your ex girlfriend was a Captain America cake?
yeah,
I was like, you've never made me a cake, and you were like, I made you our fucking wedding
yeah, like
cake.
I made you our fucking wedding cake.
I totally forgot.
I actually just came across a picture of that Captain America cake because
That was a cool cake.
that one was really cool because when you cut into it, it had the American flag and the cake colors. It was like I was so happy that that one worked out. Um, but yeah, so like the girls there like really encouraged me to go to culinary school and actually like pursue a career doing that because I was doing like cakes on the side after that for a little while and I was miserable because I was basically baking all night, working all day, and I was living off of like Monster and cigarettes. It was just a terrible life to live.
Don't remind me that you used to smoke cigarettes.
So I used to, yeah.
That's caused at least 5 fights in our life.
Fair. So I went to culinary school, drove up to Toronto, did my thing there. Met some awesome people there, people I still keep in touch with. Chef Terry. I don't know if he'll ever watch this, but hey, uh, he was a great mentor. Him, Chef Steve, those guys were like they were just so fantastic. They really inspired me and encouraged me to move forward in this industry. And I remember getting to work. Like I got to work at Chef Steve's restaurant, which was like this beautiful upscale bistro in gosh, where was it? Somewhere outside of Toronto. I remember having to drive there all the time. But it was basically like we go in, we do lunch service, it would shut down, we get ready for dinner service, do dinner service. And it was just the two of us. And it was great because it was like one-on-one, fantastic cooking experience. Like it was such a great time and I learned so much from there. Then I came back home and I think for a short while I was back at Steak and Hoagie Factory. So I was managing the one in Doylestown and that sucked. Friday night, Saturday nights until 4 a.m. The fights in the dining room, the amount of times I had to close down and like scrub the blood off the walls. I hated that.
You know what's interesting? I always think about what separates us in the kitchen. And like, I do think, like, aside from you going to culinary school, I view you as more as a chef, but I think that's because you're willing to learn and read and study. Because, no, because like you weren't trained in everything that you've ever made,
Sure.
even just like running the smoker. Like that would be above my, I mean, I could figure it out probably, but like if I'm like, hey, make this kind of sauce, you just have it in your head. Whereas like me, I'm more of like a line cook. Like I can make breakfast food. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
It's interesting.
I mean, and that's, admittedly, like I didn't do great in culinary. I mean, I did okay in culinary school, but school in general was never good for me. Like it never clicked. But I learned a lot of the fundamentals, and I still actually I have my textbook. It's over on the shelf there somewhere. But like going through week after week, because it was like you do one day of like practical studying, like just sitting in the classroom, and then we would go into the physical kitchen. But it was like one week was strictly knife skills, and then one week was soups and sauces, and one week was stocks, and we would just kind of like work through each category. And those building blocks like start to grow and it builds that sort of foundation where no, I'm not a great cook at all by any means, but like if you were to put ingredients in front of me, I could definitely figure something out with that. Like I could make something happen.
I don't think based on my internet presence that people know that I'm a cook, that I can cook, that I'm a good cook.
Probably not.
Nothing like people like Chef Nick. I mean, obviously your name, but like
Right.
also like what you post and your cooking and your baking. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a baker at all, but like as far as cooking, I can hold my own in a professional type
Oh,
setting,
absolutely.
which is funny.
I just like in a line cook setting, you could absolutely cook circles around me because that's like when I started veering off. Like I'm trying to think. Like when I got back from school, I did that. I did some bakery work. Um, I don't even remember where I went. Like then I went to work for Todd, so I was at a corporate deli basically, which was awesome because it was breakfast and lunch 5 days a week, and everything was made from scratch. We made fresh soups every day, so I learned a lot there. I still use like his balsamic tomato soup recipe, so freaking good. Like it was one of the best soups I've ever had. People would line up and they would buy it like by the quart. Just we would go through like 5 gallons
I
a
remember
day
that.
of this soup, and that it was so great getting to work with him. Like he was a guy, like he was just really passionate, but also like a family guy, and that's where I started to see sort of that like, work life balance stuff. And then I met you and I came to work at Duck Deli.
Yeah.
And then I basically shifted over full time where I was cooking, doing breakfast, and then doing, getting to do the bakery case,
And
which was
catering, like there was so much
and
going on there. There
cater.
was a lot.
There was so much going on all the time.
Yeah.
We always joke about the catering. So, I always think these backyard barbecues that we would do, we'd go to the van rental place, we'd pick up one of the Econo vans,
We didn't have our own stuff, so we always had to rent everything.
which was cheap because it was like $50 for the day or something.
Yeah.
What we were charging for catering, like we included all that in there. But we would go, we'd load up the van and load up all the product.
Oh, there was so much.
And it was, I always laugh about the rickety old grills. So I think it was like
Three.
three of these just like smaller propane grills.
I mean, there were girls that were at our house at some point.
Yeah,
or
like
another,
it was
pretty much like a house girl, like the
it was a house
smallest
grill.
version.
But they were great because they were mobile, like you could move them basically. But they also like weren't put together well, and they made so much noise. And it was just like pulling them on because we did catering for a lot of I don't want to say high profile clients, but there's a lot of money in the area that we were in.
So we just looked like assholes with these.
And we pull up these houses, these giant like McMansions out in Buckingham and
we
whatnot.
could grill a mean burger. It didn't matter.
Yeah, we would show up with these grills and it would just be carrying it through the yard. And I'm just like, oh, this is so embarrassing.
You get there with 6 propane tanks and none of them
had propane in them because none of us ever thought to check it. We were really disorganized.
We would open Cambros in people's houses and the sauce would spill all over their
God.
kitchen. Like there was so many problems.
I remember the first time that happened to me. I had such a panic because thank God I had towels with me.
Did you and I work the wedding where there was the pie?
Yeah.
That was you made the pie,
I
right?
made the pies.
Yeah, and they had pie instead of wedding cake. That was so cute.
That was really cool.
That was really cool. They were a cute couple.
I mean, we definitely we catered for some really cool people, and we'd have a lot of fun. I remember doing some of those backyard barbecues.
Well, we did the 50th wedding anniversary, and we were both crying.
Leonard Bethel.
Yep, one of the best.
Bless his heart. To this day, we talk about Leonard Bethel because
I hope he's still alive.
I think. You ran into him a couple years ago, right?
Probably maybe 8 years ago. I saw him at the grocery store.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah, it was that long ago now.
I remember when I was delivering for Nico's up in Chalfont.
Okay, so it wasn't that long ago.
I would deliver up
6 years ago. It's been a while.
I would deliver up near his house because I remember where it was just because I ended up I went to his house for the consultation. It was a nice house, but we did their 50th wedding anniversary. This sweet old man.
The easiest menu, but he was just so worried. He wanted everything to be so perfect.
To be perfect, and I bless his heart because of it. He just loved his wife so much.
It was so cute.
And he called me every single day.
And he had a distinct voice, so
you knew.
You knew it was
him. My phone would ring. Hi. This is Leonard Bethel calling.
I don't know if you remember me.
I was like, yeah, Leonard.
Yeah, I got
we talk every single day. Of course I remember you. You're literally my top priority right now. I've dropped all of my other projects just to focus on you. I know who you are. We still make that joke. I was like, oh yeah, hi.
Do you one other catering moment that stands out was me, Aunt Harry, and Paige at the Halloween wedding. And
I don't know if I've heard this one.
We had to drive the van down a huge hill to get to the tent. And then I forget where my aunt was, but me and Paige got left to cut the wedding cake.
Oh my God.
And I was only when we were together when this happened.
Oh really?
Yeah, or it might have been right before. So I was maybe 20. I was maybe 21, 20 years old. And I don't know. I'm cutting into the cake and I'm finding the pegs in the fucking cake because I don't know what to expect. And each layer has the thing. And I didn't know to move the layers. I'm like, oh my God, I am not good enough for this stuff.
Oh my gosh. People that was always when I was doing wedding cakes. I remember doing my friend Laura. It was her wedding, and it was this really nice. I think it was a 3-tier white cake with white design on it, and I had real red roses in between each layer. I get to the venue, and I'm there, and I'm I have to walk down this super long hallway with each layer, right? So each tier, I'm walking down this hallway, and I'm already nervous. Get set up. So I go and I set it up, and I remember the photographer's assistant comes bolting down the hallway, and she's like, they're touching your cake. They're touching your cake. And I was I pooped my pants, go running in. I was like, what are you guys doing? Because I guess they were trying, they were moving the tiers to move the table. Oh my God. And I'm like, can you just let me do that? Can you just please let me?
Don't touch it. Thank you.
I was like, please don't touch any of this because you're not responsible for it. I am. Now the cake was gorgeous. I know that there's pictures on my Facebook somewhere. I'll put a little picture up here so people can see it.
No, we should insert the penis cake up here.
No, the fire truck one. We'll get to that in a second. It was a beautiful cake, but I remember we're sitting there during the reception, and the catering hall person comes to me and goes, "How do we cut this cake?"
And I'm like, "That's up to you, girl."
And I was like, that's your job?
Yeah.
That is your you guys should know how to do this.
Yeah.
You guys are running it was a full on
professional venue,
professional venue, and I'm like, I'm not helping you.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm off the clock now. My job is done. The penis cake. So that was a kid's birthday cake, right? So, totally unintentional on my part, but clearly everyone else saw it. before I did. Kid wanted a fire truck cake, and I made a cool little fire truck
It was
cake.
super cute.
It was really cute. Little like fondant cutouts and whatever, and then there was the fire hose and the top of the hose and the water coming out of
And
it.
the way it was attached to the ladder, like it was this whole thing.
It looked like a penis.
It was not your best work.
It wasn't. It really wasn't.
That's so funny.
Oh my gosh. We
It's-
had Leonard Bethel. I know that there was some other like really fun. The Blues Brews and Barbecue or whatever it was up in Bethlehem. And I remember being so excited because I was like
This is
that
gonna
was
be
like
huge. This
that
is
was
a real event.
it was like one of the first events that I got for us. And I was super excited. And I was like, this is gonna be awesome. Like it's a barbecue event.
Yeah.
And they're letting us go. And we roll up with our U-Haul van, and it was you, me, Candelario, and your mom.
Yep.
Like 6 o'clock in the morning. It's super early. We get loaded out, and we're there, and we're waiting, and we're waiting.
We're put in the
and
back
we're
corner,
waiting.
and people
Yeah.
have real food trucks, professional vans.
They put us in the furthest corner back. They were like, well, they just basically tucked us into a spot where nobody was walking. We did not sell a single item that day.
Horrible.
It was awful. It was like the worst.
Remember, I called my dad and I
failure
was like, do we have to stay? And he's like, it'd be nice if you could stay a little. I'm like, no, like I need you to understand that we are
Like,
not going to sell anything
Right,
here.
like it's just not going to happen. Because I remember there was like the main food truck rolls up, and it's this fucking 18-wheeler
And
transformer
you're like, people are going to go
that
there.
literally
Like,
like
what?
rolled out and like it
It's like a red
freaking
carpet.
Optimus Prime opened up into like a whole damn restaurant. I was like, well, we're fucked.
Yeah.
Like that's nobody's gonna come over for our little turkey drumsticks.
Between that and the carnival, like those are the two like
Oh,
top
yeah.
tier. We got invited last minute to an Oktoberfest type event. It was like the first year that they had it back in Doylestown.
Oh god.
It's going to be this big event. There was so many rides, vendors, blah blah blah. It fucking rains that entire week. Is that what happened? Like rained, and then
It got because it was like they delayed it a
delayed
week
it.
because it rained
It was
so
soaked.
much.
The whole
And the
site
field was like completely muddy. They delayed it another week, and then it like still rained, and they're like, we have to do this because all these people are signed up to do this thing. And we're just trudging through the mud.
And you sold what, a cookie? I think you sold an oatmeal raisin cookie.
Yeah,
was that when my dad peed behind the van?
Yeah.
Like there was nobody there.
It was awful. It was really bad.
Really bad. Those are definitely the two that stick out in my head as like the worst.
But I was like the Pumpkin Fest at the Tile Works. That was a lot of fun.
That was a great one.
I don't even think that they do that anymore.
Yes, they do.
Do they?
Every year.
We should go.
I know. Every year I think that.
We should go because that one was really. I remember like the last 2 years that we did it because like I started baking and we had the cupcakes there
Packed.
and we took the fryers and we were doing hush puppies.
We killed
Like
it.
we were killing it, and because I remember
We were in front of the line too. Remember the line? Like we would be, and people would just like,
yeah,
it was
like
crazy.
we had like the prime spot
We
because
did.
we were the vets there, and I'll never forget that's when I learned about that's when like the credit card swipe systems on your phones were starting to like
And we had
become
them.
popular.
You got them.
I got them for us because
You had an iPhone.
I had the iPhone for the catering purposes, and then it was like nobody else could take credit cards,
Yeah.
but there wasn't an ATM. Like it was before they started having ATM machines at these
So
functions.
we were slaying. We killed it.
And so like I put up a sign. I was like, we accept credit cards, and it was just a line
Yep.
all day long.
I
I
remember
was
that.
selling like pies and cupcakes, and like we were like hush puppies out the wazoo. It was so good for us.
That was a good one. That's so funny.
But yeah, the good and the bad. I used to love doing it. I still tell the guys at work about when we did like the whole smoked pigs. Like those were a lot of fun. It was creepy because I mean, like I told my story about the first time I actually saw one of those.
They always scared the waitresses. They were always freaked out about that.
Well, and I remember when I was there, and we would smoke them, but we would do it overnight when I was baking because I was baking overnight, and we would use like those the tie straps to tie the pig down to the
rack
racks.
so it wouldn't flip over.
But it was like a carousel rack, so like it floated, and inevitably as the pig settled, as it warmed up, I would hear in the middle of the night just this loud thud, which meant that the pig fell off the rack. And I'm there
Thank
by
God you're always
myself,
there.
right? I'm
Because
there.
that was a mess. Remember when like the baked beans would end up falling?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
But I'd be there in the middle of the night trying to pull this like 70-pound pig out of the smoker by myself to get a reset on there. Meanwhile, the timer's going off and I've got like cookies and
I'm
shit
stuck in
in
the
the
apartment
oven.
sleeping.
Yeah, you've already like fucked off for the day. I'm like, God damn it. I was like, what am I doing with my life?
My best thing that I love to tell people and no one can believe it is that I vended at the Tweeter Center for a whole summer.
Oh yeah.
In Camden, New Jersey, and we got the concert tickets for the entire season.
Yeah.
That was probably the coolest thing I've ever done.
I was
As far as
around
like
for
food
that.
stuff. Like
That would have been cool.
I mean, we were there for every single sound check. I mean, we just saw the craziest stuff there. Like Ozzy Osbourne didn't come on stage for 4 hours and people were rioting.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was something my parents got stuck in when they were there. But there was always
You're like, you're mad? Here, have a drumstick.
literally that was a good summer. Our best I remember the Toby Keith concert, rest in peace. I can't believe he's dead. That's sad.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Oh, he had cancer, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But all those barbecue like country events, like we killed it. Like that
Yeah,
was
of
the
course.
crowd at those type of events. That was so fun. I just can't believe I did that. And that was the summer of the end of ninth grade. And I was there every week.
Yeah.
That's so fun. Like I know we always talk about this. We wish we could go relive those days now
Oh
because
yeah.
we're just so much more smarter and we just have so much more experience
Right.
behind it.
Things would have been so different, but I mean, obviously things happen for a reason.
Yeah. I can't imagine never cooking again. Like it's weird. Like I know you're always like, I don't know about the restaurant stuff. I always think about that.
I'm torn. I'm torn because like again that's such a big part of who we are, and I know like that's where I thrive. Like I know that I do well in my job now as a manager because when I left Duck Deli, I went down that path of I knew that I wanted to cook more elevated level type food because I wanted that experience. I moved around so many times, and like that was kind of like the next logical step in my career path was like start to refine my skills and go
You
to
went the
finer
opposite way,
dining. And I went
managing.
the complete opposite way because I was stuck at this fork in the road, and I had two opportunities presented to me, and it was either take a step back financially and go and cook, and it was like bad financially step back, like it was multiple steps back, or take a step forward financially and become a manager and go and like really train myself for that. And I went in that direction, and that was an experience on its own. When I moved to Maryland and I was managing this restaurant, like first of all, going into it, like I remember working at Duck Deli, like I was that kitchen guy that was an absolute jerk to all the servers. I was mean, I was nasty, like
There's
I
one in
fought with
every
your
kitchen
mom. Yeah, there's one in every kitchen. Like I remember fighting with your mom. I
all the
fought with
time.
Cindy. I was a horrible person. Like I was that guy that like would throw shit. Like it unnecessary. I moved to Maryland and I worked for a guy that on the regular would make me leave work crying.
Karma's a bitch.
Yeah, and it totally changed how I approached my leadership, my management skills. Like I vowed, I was like, I am never going to manage people like that ever again. Because I just remember like watching him not only berate me on the floor, but like berate these servers. And it was this tiny little deli, like real like tight spaces, and right in front of customers, just like reaming out the staff unnecessarily. Not to mention that man was a horrible racist. That's beside the point.
I mean, even when you managed, I mean, you had manager jobs after that here, but
Hmm.
then like the most recent would have been the tap house,
Yeah.
which is where I ended up as well, with my dad,
Hmm.
because we just stalked my dad around Bucks County.
Pretty much.
Um,
Right or
but
die.
like they all respected you. Like you were only there for a short time, but like all the girls really liked you.
That's and that was
You were such a better manager there.
it was I look at like who I was as a manager when I left Duck Deli and who I am as a manager now, like who I was as a manager at the Tap House. I knew to like go in with a plan. I was like, this is what needs to be done to get this place running efficiently, and things were going well. And the only reason that I left was because I wasn't in agreement with the owners. I didn't like how they were operating things, because they still didn't know what they were doing, and that was when your dad and I were sitting there trying to explain to them
Simple things.
cost and stuff.
You're
Yeah.
like,
I
okay,
was like, nope, I can't do this anymore.
yeah.
I was like, first of all, this is well beyond my pay grade. And second of all, if you can't figure this out, this business will never work. And
What's so
joke's on
weird
them.
is I was at Duck Deli, then I was at Sunoco,
Mhm.
then I was at the Tap House. I mean, I was at the preschool in between. I was at Primo. Like I had a couple of random odd things, but I feel like I was at the Tap House for so much longer, and I wasn't. I was at Sunoco for 8 years.
The Tap
My
House,
next year was Tap House was like a time suck.
it really was like a time suck. I mean, like you and I fought so bad about that
We
place.
did. What a toxic situation.
It really was. It was like some of the best people that I've ever worked with. Like that core group of people. He was. I miss him so much. Like he was just such a great guy, such a positive dude. Um, Natalie and Alyssa, like
Yeah, like the mean group.
yeah, they were just great. And boy, man, did that just business just like was so off its rocker. Of course, then I went somewhere where I got a cease and desist.
Oh yeah, I
That
forgot
was a
about
fun
that.
experience. Because I left the Tap House. I'm like, can I talk about it? Is it like redacted? Redacted?
Oh yeah, like when can you talk? I mean, are they going to listen to
Yeah,
Thanks for
probably not.
Cooking podcast?
Thanks for cooking. Um,
Thanks for
so
the cease and desist.
right, thanks for the cease and desist. I went to work for the smoothie business, and
Wait, just real quick before you start. Everything that's happened to you since you've been home, like now I feel like it's better. Like our life is like regular and mellowed out.
mhm,
But I always just feel so bad because you left not the best situation, but good money. It was like, like you were like, I don't know if I want to be doing this forever, but the
yeah,
money is there
yeah,
to
it was good
literally
money.
going into the most the most fucked up Twilight Zone situations between
Yeah.
this one that you're about to talk about, the bowling alley, which you weren't even going to include that, which that was a
Wow,
whole
yeah.
situation. You know what I mean? Like there's so many just like, what the fuck? Like business
The
moments.
bowling alley was an experience, and that was weird because I mean, so many reasons, but like I was like really feeling accomplished there. Like I had developed a menu and I had really put a lot of work into building that place up, and like, I refined their menu, I saved them a lot of money,
And then you were fired.
and then I got fired. At the top of COVID, I got fired because I was trying to take care of my family. And they suck. Well, joke's on her, she's dead. So
The karma
moving
came back for a lot of these places.
because okay, so I left Roma Delight, which ended up closing,
Hmm.
to go to the bowling alley, which she ended up dying.
It's horrible, but
And
like,
yeah, but like they don't even have the bill, they sold the business, so nuts to them. Went to the tap house,
they ended up
which
closing.
closed,
Yep.
and then I went to this smoothie place, which probably won't last too
I'm surprised they're still open.
long. But that's where I got the cease and desist. I went in as the multi-unit manager or whatever. I was basically a slave for them.
The
And
smoothies are bomb, but we won't give them any credit.
I mean, listen, it's frozen
Yeah,
fruit,
it's just
fruit and milk kind of
I know,
thing.
but
Like
like
I,
I'm
anyone
just
can
so
make
used
it.
to not getting smoothies. They were good.
But through my own skills and their lack of, I had found that they were like skimming money out of the payroll system, whether they knew it or not, because they had hired a quote unquote
Oh, they weren't giving the tips,
consultant.
right? And you were like, these people are missing their money.
Well, first of all, people weren't getting paid their credit card tips,
Oh, that's right.
and then the cash tips, like whatever spreadsheet that they had that told them what was supposed to get paid out, was like filtering off 10% of the cash tips.
That's right.
And I was like, this company doesn't make enough money
A cease and
to like
desist
let
was
that.
so next level because it's not like you blasted this to anyone except one other employee.
I tried to blast it to the staff, admittedly, because I wanted them all to
Well, these
know
were
that
people.
they weren't like they were owed money.
I
And I
thought a
even
cease and
contacted
desist was more like you blasted it online and you're talking bad
right,
about the business. You didn't say shit.
but I even contacted the Wage and Labor
Oh,
Board,
that's right.
because I was like, somebody needs to look into this.
And they did.
They did, but remember they didn't get back to me for like a year.
Yeah, and they were like, "Oh, so we looked into that.
They were like, well, we looked into it, but they're like, do you have any more evidence? And I was like, well, not
Like
anymore.
I've been gone. I don't even remember the person." Yeah, that was crazy.
Like, whatever. But yeah, so they sent me a cease and desist, which was like, all right. But then they owed me money, and they sent me the cease and desist first, and then they sent me
Your final check.
well, it wasn't my final check.
Oh, they owed you
They
money
owed me
from
money
stuff that
for
you.
like Indeed posts and stuff that was on my credit
That's
card,
right.
and I was like, no, you have to pay me for that. What a wild ride it's been.
It really has been crazy.
Because I mean, I left there and I went to Wild Fork, right?
You totally skip Costco, but Costco's not even.
I don't
It's like a
consider
blip.
Costco in that
All those
mix.
things are like the
That was,
blip in the.
Costco was a landing zone in between the bowl, because I went to Costco at the top of COVID because
And
the
that's
bowling alley had shut down, and it was unclear as to whether I was actually going to get paid or not. So not knowing how like any of that unemployment and stuff was going to work, I was like, I got to go get a job. I got to make sure that we're taken care of. Of course, like looking back, I probably would have made more on unemployment, but whatever. So I went to work for Costco, and in under 2 years, I went from a seasonal bread wrapper to the department manager, and then I left because I had the opportunity to go work with your dad. Chris Lana, ride or die.
It's so crazy.
It is. It is. And now I work in retail because, 40 hours a week. It's great. I get to talk about food. I get to be around food. I get to like be excited about food without all that nonsense. I do miss it. I miss it sometimes. I miss.
I always wonder what I miss because like I loved working at Sunoco, but because I loved the customers and my dad, obviously. And then I love the tap house because I love my dad and co. And I think it's really just situational.
Yeah.
I don't think I can go into just any kitchen and I'm going to be thrilled to be there. I think it really depends.
I think for me, it's always that sort of like measure of personal success, right? Like if I do well in my job now, the company makes a lot of money,
Mm.
right? But I always felt like if I was the GM of a like local small business restaurant and that does well, that reflects directly on me.
Yeah.
And obviously that's, things for my therapist to figure out, but why I'm always trying to like achieve these goals. The tap house was the closest I ever came to going in that direction, because like I never really had that opportunity to sort of like build something, and that was like, I think that's what I've always wanted is like, I want to be that guy where, we've always talked like, I want somebody with a bunch of money to come to me and go, hey, I'm going to buy a restaurant and I want
Just do it.
you to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you make this happen. And then I can basically call you and your dad and Natalie and Alyssa and co and like all these people that we've gathered over the years and build our super team and just go, okay, this is how we're doing things. Because the hardest thing is like when I go anytime I've been hired into those places, like even at the tap house, there's so much backpedaling that you have to do because there's so many wrong decisions being made. I mean, remember I talked about like the safe wasn't organized, the money wasn't organized, the alcohol wasn't organized. There was no sense of like inventory. They were just bringing kegs from the brewery and not thinking about what they were doing. And I was trying to get all of that organized for them, but the owners were like fighting so hard in the wrong direction that it was like every time I took a step forward, it was two more back for them because they just like they refuse. They're like, "Hey,
It's
we
crazy.
hired you guys because you're the professionals, but we're
We're
also
also gonna
not
have
going
an
to listen.
opinion. We're gonna have a little bit of an opinion
Right.
here.
We're also not going to listen to what you have to say because this is how we want to do it." And like she was nuts. She was absolutely nuts. She was the main reason I left that job.
You better be careful. You're gonna get another cease and
I
desist.
fucking hope I do. You know, their other location caught on fire.
Yeah.
I don't even know like what the end result of that was.
Yeah, I
Like,
don't know. I think it's. I mean, it's back up and running, but
it seems to be. But
crazy
again, you know, it's
karma.
you know, so if there's any restaurant owners out there who no.
It's so
I
weird.
can't do that with the kids now. Like that was a big reason. Like when we really sat down and we looked at that and we're like, you know, I left the smoothie place and it's like, what do I do now? Right? What is the logical next step for me? Do I keep going and struggling at these restaurants and putting my all in for people who don't deserve it? Like trying to find that sort of like that Cinderella slipper of a restaurant.
It would have been my dad's restaurant if it was us now. It would
Absolutely.
have been like that. Would have. I mean, there's not. I mean, there's no business owners like my dad. There's
No.
nobody like him. There's nobody that like.
Well, no, there are, but they already have the people that they need,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's not, you know, of course that makes me always question my abilities. Is like, did I always get hired from these places because it was like they were out of options? They're like, well, I guess I guess we'll try this
Oh my
guy.
god, you always think of the worst.
But it really came down to that. It's like, do we keep looking for the sort of needle in a haystack opportunity and keep struggling and being miserable and being out every Friday and Saturday night and working the long hours and just hating life? Or do I go work 40 hours a week for decent pay, still hate life, but you know, now I get to live the life that I have. And only for a short time. Like I was working the two jobs because I was doing the bagels, which again was a great learning experience. I had never worked with a wood fire oven. You know, doing wood fire bagels at freaking 3 o'clock in the morning, like that was really cool. And it was good until all the content stuff started picking up. You know, when I started posting more, you got me into that, and then like your stuff was picking up, and then my stuff started picking up. I was like, "There's no way that we can do this," and I work two jobs.
There's not enough date hours in the day.
There was like remember like the weekends were super long for me.
Yeah, you were there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like
Yeah,
literally
because I did Friday, Saturday, Sunday from
like 3 to 11 and then 1 to 9 or something. Like it was
yeah,
absolutely
like
insane.
it was long hours with like maybe a nap in between. And I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not young. Like I could have done that back in my 20s,
You're
but
an old man.
well, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is spongy and weak.
I miss cooking. Like the tap house was one of my favorite cooking experiences, but just because it was so fast paced and
Yeah.
like even though there was bullshit at that restaurant, like I was just in my zone of like this is fun to cook here, which I liked, and I miss that. And I told you, like my dad was like, "Oh, wait, you know, maybe you could come like boil pasta with me." It's like I always follow him, but he always asks me like, "Oh
He
wait, are
does.
you serious? Do you want to come work?"
Well, because again, it's that whole like we know who our reliable team is.
Yeah,
You know, we know who those people
that was
are.
the nicest thing my dad has ever said to me. Out of anything he could ever say to me,
Come and boil pasta.
no, when he said, "I am the best line cook he's ever worked with."
Oh,
That was the nicest thing he ever said. I was like, "That is so nice."
yeah. Well, he's not wrong.
He'll always call me if he really needs someone.
I think the one big thing I miss from the restaurant industry is the lack of like that corporate stronghold on shit.
Oh,
You
it's like a
know,
free for all.
where
It's the complete opposite.
I could just fire
Oh, you're
somebody
done. Yeah.
when I wanted
Oh, you're
to.
drunk. You're out.
Yeah, like oh, you doing coke in the bathroom again? Guess what? You can do
Goodbye.
that at home now. You know, now it's like I got to jump through a million freaking hoops with like write ups and this and that and the other, and like you know, it's insane what you have to go through when there's that corporate backing to it. It was the same at Costco. You know, it's just horrible.
Yeah,
You know, I just sort of miss that sort of that like personal level of stuff. I guess.
I totally get that.
You know,
I mean, I tell you every time you have something to say about any corporate job you've worked, I'm like, I could never do it. I'm too much of a rebel. I'm too outspoken in those type of jobs. Like I couldn't.
I mean, dealing with HR in general. Like,
I
don't get me
couldn't.
wrong. Like, I love our HR rep, but it's like email after
Just having to
email. It's
go
like
to them and like
I need
the
more
do to do.
paperwork. I
Yeah,
need this sign. I need that sign.
yeah. It's too
I need
much.
a missed punch form for the time thing and blah 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 blah
It's
blah.
like no, just go to the computer, give me the basket.
It's such a waste of my time. Like
Yeah,
it's such a waste of my
hours
time.
wasted.
Hours wasted at work. And now more than ever do I see it now that we've picked up so much business. Is I'm just like, I can't spend an hour every day just answering emails anymore. It's
Yeah.
uh,
I would love to know. Like, I feel like, I mean, I don't know, and I'm gonna pose the question to the audience. It's like, are any of our followers or listeners restaurant people? Because off the top of my head, I can't think of any. Aside from like someone like Paige, like people that
right,
we
like the
know
ones that we
that
actually
we
know, the
know in
ones that
real
we've
life.
worked with.
But I'd be curious, did anyone else, like a
Yeah.
waitress, a bartender, a manager, a cook? I can't think of any, and I'm
Even if
so
you've done it,
curious.
like tell us. Like I want to hear other people's stories because like I'm a firm believer that everyone needs to spend some time in the service industry.
I mean, we always say like if the age is 14, Jason's going. He's
Oh,
washing dishes,
absolutely.
he's bussing tables. You
Absolutely.
will learn the work ethic. I mean, we always joke that like our generation, like our age, is like the last age that knows how to work
Yeah.
because we worked in restaurants. We grew up at 14 getting jobs. Like,
There was somebody who basically said they were like everybody needs to work like a year in a restaurant so you realize that your ranch dressing isn't that fucking important.
yeah, I agree with that.
And I think that like your senior year of high school, like semester one should be in a restaurant, semester two should be in retail. And I just think that it would make people a little bit nicer in the world.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I agree. I'm going to end this with one question for you. If you had to say one life skill that you've learned from restaurants that you utilize every day, that's the most impactful or important, what would you say?
Organization.
Mine was going to be multitasking.
Oh yeah. I think that kind of like they go hand in hand. I think it's a matter of being able to juggle multiple things at once in your head and kind of like keep all that stuff together and basically have that like to-do list of multiple things going.
Yep,
I just had this conversation at work. I was like, when you're in that sort of fast-paced environment, you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to like be okay with letting something go for a second and like, no, I don't have to watch this pot boil right now. I can go do something else. Or like, no, I don't have to finish packing this order. My job right now, I don't have to finish packing this order right now because there's a customer at the counter and I have to go help them. And kind of understanding like you have multiple things going on at once and then understanding the priority level of those things and still getting to the end of the day and all of it's done. That's
I
huge.
think that is, if you have not worked in a restaurant, I'm not going to say you don't know that skill because I'm sure like doctors, nurses, firefighters. I mean, there's so many positions where you're using that skill,
Sure.
but I think that it's definitely up there as far as like you're going to learn that skill quick.
I mean, absolutely. I've always
Like,
said, I said this a lot at Costco, and I say this a lot now in my job where I say, like, we need to hire restaurant people because restaurant people, like good restaurant people, can work anywhere, but any worker can't necessarily work in a restaurant.
totally.
It's not for everybody, and that's never a bad thing, right? I think that's kind of like my big takeaway of being both in and out of the restaurant industry, and I tell people this. And when people ask me, like, hey, my kid wants to go to culinary school, what advice do you want to give them? My advice is always like, it's not for everyone, and that's okay. There are just some people are built for it, some people are not. And I think it's understanding when that time is, right? Understanding
It's the most
where your limit
is
is.
it underrated? I can't think of the word. Like nobody takes it seriously, but it's such a hard job.
Oh,
Like you're
absolutely.
telling me that I have to run this food, remember those drinks, get that, bust that table, like all the different aspects of a restaurant. And I just think people look at it like they can't get my order right.
Yeah.
Like the dumbest, it's just interesting.
Oh, for sure.
But
No, that's
I would love to hear if anyone else has worked in a restaurant. I can't believe I'm thinking
yeah.
of our list of friends, like internet besties, and I'm like, huh,
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I
I
mean,
don't think
not definitely not currently.
no. Like I know Nicole made cakes. I know that about her.
I did find out recently. I think Jenna and Bridget.
Yeah.
Bridget works for. She's a chef somewhere.
Okay, but they're people we know them in
I
real
know that
life.
we
I'm
know
just
the real, but
curious.
I was just because I didn't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that she did that, or maybe I did and I just forgot. But
yeah.
I was like, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't think that like
We don't got foodie people,
we don't.
so let us know.
Yeah, maybe it's because we're out of the restaurant industry now. Like, we just don't
We're
hang
not
with those
talking about it, so
people.
we're not. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, let us know if you either now currently or have worked
In a restaurant,
in a restaurant or something similar. That's we'd love to hear your stories because we
then
know you have them,
then we're blood brothers. Then we're besties for sure.
right? That's like,
That's like an unspoken. Like if you know restaurants, you're in.
yep, shots for
You're in the
everyone.
fam. Well,
Is that it?
yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Um,
I love reminiscing about restaurants.
that's
I
my
love like that. That was like our favorite time together.
yeah.
Even though it broke us up, but
It broke us up, but we would still open a restaurant together if we could.
100%. There is nobody. There is nobody in this world that I would do this with other than you and your family.
That's so nice.
Like 100%. At this point in my career, at this point in my life, you're the only people that
So
I
you were
trust to
bust.
do. Yeah, I mean, you guys are the only ones that I would trust to do the job the way it needs to be done. And on that, thanks for cooking. Literally, thanks for cooking. That was
That was
I think that's very appropriate ending for the restaurant episodes. Thanks
Thanks
for
for
cooking.
cooking.